Hi there, Andrew D. Pope. A strange thing happens, especially in midlife, when a career no longer fits. You start to drift into maintenance mode. On the surface, at least, and to anybody looking in, you're competent, you're confident, responsible, you're functioning fully, you're doing the job, everything's golden. But underneath all of that, something vitally important stops growing. And then it starts to stagnate. And then it can even, if unchecked, start to diminish. Now, in maintenance mode, you feel that you're busy, you're doing something, you're getting things done, you're achieving things, you're productive. But underneath, something has stalled. What you may be thinking of as maintenance and stability basically have turned into adaptation, toleration, and identity. So I don't want you to misunderstand things here. Maintenance mode is often very, very valuable. We all need to have some R&R. We need to stop. We need to check things. We need to rebuild things. We need to adjust things. But long-term maintenance mode, that's a problem, or it can be a problem, and that's what we're talking about here. You are functional, but flat. Okay? You're operational. You're doing the job. You're getting things done. There's no collapse. There's no overt problem, but there's also no growth. Okay? Life has become, for you, administration. You're just managing your life at this point. You stop building and you start preserving. That's not a good place to be, especially in midlife. So, long-term maintenance mode certainly isn't failure. It isn't overt collapse. It isn't laziness. It isn't any of those things. What it is a gradual adaptation and adjustment which replaces intentional growth. The status quo becomes something that you don't necessarily want. Why does this happen? Well, there's responsibility, as it says there. There is pressure, exhaustion, expectation of others, duty, okay, practicality sometimes. Fear is a huge one. You name it. There are many reasons for this entering into a long-term maintenance mode. So what I'm talking about here is adaptation replaces intention. Okay, you're just adjusting to the world around you instead of impacting the world around you. You're not in control anymore necessarily at this stage. Now, it often happens slowly. It happens really gradually, very, very easily. In fact, so that we just don't notice sometimes. It creeps up. It's an incremental thing. That's the problem with long-term maintenance mode. As it says there, things trigger it. We do need to maintain from time to time. But after a while, maintenance mode can become the norm. It feels too comfortable. Periods of stress can cause us to go into maintenance mode. Periods of stabilization after an event, okay, survival mode if we're really struggling. And sometimes, as I said, we just need maintenance and recovery. It's when it becomes sort of our norm, our default. It is the normal. We've normalized this idea of maintenance mode. We're not growing. We're stagnating at this point. Temporary coping quietly becomes a permanent operating system. Okay, that's your new default operating system. Now, when this happens, when it becomes your default operating mode, that can be quite dangerous in the sense that if you take your eye off the ball, the problem really can compound over time, but incrementally, so you don't notice. When you do finally notice, or it makes itself known to you, you can have problems at that stage. Okay? Your adulthood, certainly in midlife and beyond, your professional career, you feel like an administrator. You feel like a manager of your own life, not a participant in it. Your possibilities narrow. You can't see any future things. This is what you've got is what you've got, and you're trying to preserve what you've got at all costs. You don't want what you have, but you fear losing what you have. A little bit of a catch-22 situation there. You become less curious. You become less creative. Your desire to experiment, your willingness to take risks disappears, it diminishes. You have no zest for life at this point. Other people will see you as functional and doing really well. You are not really enjoying yourself at this point. Picasso famously said, every child is an artist. The trick is, or the problem is, how to remain an artist once they grow up. Pablo Picasso, very smart individual. So we can liken that to the situation here of long-term maintenance mode. We're growing up, if you like, or we're forced to grow up, but it's not aligned with our core values. It's not aligned with who we want to be, who we saw ourselves as being. It's not aligned with any of those things. It confuses us. It causes us problems. So at this point, you've probably stopped building your own life. This is where the psychological downset or downshift happens. Your mindset changes to all of this. You've got less curiosity. You're exhibiting less stretch. You are, as I said, taking fewer risks, if any at all. No experiments, no evolution is happening with you at this stage. You become very good at maintaining a version of the life you no longer fully want. It's not aligned to your core values. It misaligns with your identity. And I could say, in fact, this is always the case, or often the case, that your identity changes to actually suit the job that you don't really want anymore. It's a double bind. You're really in trouble here. You don't want to be this person, but you're becoming this person because that's the loop that you're stuck in. Very, very common, this, by the way. I work with a lot of professional people, and I have to tell you, I've been here myself a couple of times throughout my career. I've made big changes, and they haven't necessarily gone brilliantly. So I'm now a big fan of what I call strategic recalibration, to realign things with your core values, making subtle changes, making them early, and making them often enough to bring you back on track and prevent this idea of misalignment. And doing that keeps you out of maintenance mode because you're doing all the things it says there. You're curious, you're experimenting, you are taking some risks, but they're small, they're managed risks, and the payoff is huge. So there are ways of dealing with this, but you've got to notice it first, and you've got to understand that it actually is a thing and not just something you should tolerate because it happens to everybody. So all of that good stuff, growth, alignment, possibility, that can change once you make this psychological downshift, or the psychological downshift takes over, if you like. It's changed to stability, predictability, and just management of life. That, as I said, can be seductive. It can be quite nice now and again to have that. We all need periods of this, but as a long-term situation, a long-term operating mode, it's not helpful. It can, as it says there, affect your energy over time, your confidence, your ability to even think about the future in any meaningful way. You're kind of stuck where you are. You can't see anything over here that you want to go at. You're caught in a limbo. Not a great place to be, as I've said. Now, I know I'm going on about this a bit, but it is important. There's a real hidden cost to all of this stuff. It's not dramatic unhappiness necessarily, not initially anyway. Something quieter, deeper, and much more insidious in my humble experience. Reduced ambition, reduced imagination, problem solving. Perhaps you just accept problems. You just accept the status quo. That rebel you used to be, perhaps, in your younger days. You're not that anymore. Now, some people can accept this and just say, oh, it is what it is. That's how life works. But if your core values aren't aligned with that, you're going to struggle. You need to get things back where they are aligned with your core, deep-seated values. You can forget what engaged work even felt like if this goes on for too long. Your life can become something you manage and preserve, as it says there, rather than something you actually shape and enjoy shaping. It's your life. Nobody's going to come along and fix this for you. It would be lovely if that happened, but that's not the way life works. You've got to grab this and run with it. You've got to fix this. It's down to you. If you don't do it, it doesn't get fixed. Simple as that. So, at its heart, long-term maintenance mode seductive and comfortable though it can be, can actually change your identity, your perception of yourself professionally and personally. Okay? You're no longer a participant, you're merely a manager of its ongoing stability. There are some confusions between adaptation and alignment. They are different things. You're functional, but you're not necessarily alive in the professional sense. There's nothing to look forward to professionally. Okay. Your possibilities are shrinking. I've gone on at length about the problem. I've gone on at length about the hidden costs, etc. These are important. We have to understand the sort of thing we're playing with here if we ignore it. There are definite costs to ignoring these things. So many people will ask the question, how do I keep everything together in my life? How do I keep stable? Okay, they're looking for that stability because in the absence of anything else to look at, they think that's where they need to be. And it does feel like an oasis in a rough sea or a dry desert, mixing my metaphors there. But a stable life really can become a stagnant life. And you're watching this video, if you've watched to this point in time, I'm pretty sure you're not after a stagnant life. But it's very easy to fall into that, to sleepwalk into that to a certain extent. So the way to think about this and the way to start making changes, take ownership, take responsibility for your life, is to start to ask yourself a better question. As it says there, the better question is, what parts of my life are no longer growing and aren't aligned with my core values? Follow that up with, what am I going to do about it? That's the important one. And then following that question, do something about it. So as always, here's something well worth reflecting on. Have you gradually slipped into maintenance mode without fully realizing it? I'd genuinely be interested to find out whether any of this stuff resonates with you. It would be great to have comments, so drop a few comments in the chat below. Just tell me what's going on in your life. Nothing specific, but do these ideas resonate? Have you experienced this kind of thing? What did you do about it if you did experience them? So if you did engage and were interested in the ideas in this video, there are many, many more conversations like this on the channel. So consider subscribing for future updates. If you liked it, drop a like. It all helps. And finally, remember, deliberate evolution beats accidental drift. I'm Andrew D. Pope. See you next time.